The Colorado River, which allows the desert to sustain itself and powers millions of American homes, is currently engaged in the fight for its life. The rapidly sinking river, victim of a nearly 23-year-long megadrought, stretches 1,450 miles, snaking its way from Colorado through Arizona, Nevada, and California, and finally into Mexico, where it should theoretically dump out into the Sea of Cortez. Let's find out about the Colorado River drought crisis. The water rarely gets that far, thanks to a series of dams and agricultural canals that have devastated the natural river, as well as the Mexican communities that once depended on it. In the US, meanwhile, 40 million Americans rely on the river as a source of water and power, without many viable alternatives. This crisis has made clear the fragility of water resources in the Southwest, but it has also demonstrated that hydropower cannot be the reliable clean energy solution that many would like to write it off as. Throughout the US, drought, extreme heat, flooding, and many other factors are complicating efforts to use green power methods. More stable sources are increasingly urgent. Last August, there was an imminent danger of Lake Mead and Lake Powell reaching what we call dead pool status. What that means is that in those two dams, the water levels would become so low that they could no longer flow downstream. That's quite critical because Lake Mead is the largest artificial reservoir in the United States, and Lake Powell is the second largest. They provide water supplies for much of the American West and Mexico as well. Those reservoirs are incredibly important. The funny thing about the American West is that it's always been a bit water scarce. The area is very dry. It's a desert, and the population has exploded. So, there's no doubt that there's huge pressure being put on the already scarce water supply by the population living there, and also by some of the activities that are prevalent. The basin states are meeting federal pressure to reduce how much water they take from the overburdened river. The Bureau of Reclamation, the government agency in charge of water management in the West, cites a need for urgent cutbacks on behalf of the states along the river. It put forth the Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, SEIS, to restrict how much was released to water users in 2023 and 2024. Sarah Porter, director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at Arizona State University, says that creating a conservation plan won't be easy. It is possible that the states will not be able to come up with an agreement because what they have to agree to do is so very hard. They have to agree to take less water, and that requires getting water users within the state to agree to use less water. As the water crisis along the Colorado River continues, Americans in the basin states will need to adjust to living with less water at their disposal. A 2019 study found that dams in America could be replaced by solar panels using just 13% of the space. Nuclear power is highly efficient, if controversial, and is the second largest source of low-carbon power in the world after hydropower. But so far, there have been few efforts to find replacements for the energy currently being produced by drought-unstable dams in the US. A 2022 study found that hydropower systems around global coastlines will be most vulnerable to climate-induced changes. In the letter accompanying their recent mitigation proposal, the 6 states with a unified plan stated that even under dry conditions, where significant compromises are needed, maintaining both Lake Mead and Lake Powell above dead pool and power pool levels, and thus preserving their ability to generate power, is a top priority. But for now, as hydropower becomes more unstable, reliance on dirty energy production methods is rising in its place. Policies such as the Inflation Reduction Act has created tax credits and incentives for using renewable energy sources like hydropower, but it will not be enough investment to maintain the integrity of the aging structures while also adapting to changing environmental conditions. There is never going to be a perfect solution to mitigate the impacts of the lowering water level, but drastic measures to reduce reliance on water and to keep power plants running, while also expanding renewable energy alternatives like solar, will be the most effective path forward. The sooner states can lower their water usage, the better chance the Colorado River and its dams will have at a sustainable future. Hydropower is too integrated into the green energy grid to lose, and time is running out to keep the country's water and power flowing. the Grand Valley Water Users Association, which diverts Colorado River water west of Palisade and delivers it to its members for irrigation, operated one of the larger system pilot programs in 2017 and 2018, Chris Outcolt wrote in the Colorado Sun last year. Other upper basin projects took place elsewhere in Colorado, as well as Utah, New Mexico, and Wyoming. At that time, Mark Harris, general manager of the association, said the first question that needed to be answered was whether farmers would even choose to participate in a program that paid them to temporarily use less water. It turned out they did if they perceived the offer price to be fair and participation remained a choice instead of a government mandate, Harris said. There were more volunteer sellers than money for the pilot. Despite the lack of consensus between the 7 states that make up the river basin, progress has been made toward more earnest initiatives to conserve water in major cities of the western U.S. in particular. Phoenix has allocated $295 million for a new pipeline to connect users to other water sources. And in Denver, efforts are being made to pay residents to remove non-functional turf, a wasteful water guzzler. Las Vegas has put more aggressive usage restrictions into effect, as well as proposed to return immense quantities of treated wastewater to Lake Mead for reuse. Salt Lake City followed suit by cutting back consumption by 15% this past irrigation season, and Los Angeles is developing its own $3.4 billion water recycling plant in tandem with Arizona and Nevada. "I'm extremely hopeful," said Liz Mullen-Bernhardt, a freshwater expert with the United Nations Environment Program, in an interview. "I see change happening. I see a positive future that might look a bit different from how we're living now, but it's still a very worthwhile future. I've got no doubt we'll find solutions." In 1922, the Colorado River Compact was signed by 7 western states to portion out water from the river. Who got how much water was based, after decades of legal wrangling, on who was using the most back when the compact was decided. It's basically a first dibs system. States that were using the most water in the 1910s got the biggest share. Those percentages haven't changed in a century, but the populations of the states and the amount of water to go around have, drastically. 2 facts have long complicated the West's water problems. First, populations have soared in drought-stricken regions that depend on the river for water. And second, agriculture now accounts for most of the water usage from the Colorado River, about 80%. California, which uses the most water from the river, was the lone holdout. It submitted a separate model for less drastic concessions of 1 million acre-feet per year for the lower basin. It would reduce its own water usage by 400,000 acre-feet annually, while Arizona would bear the brunt of the cutbacks at 560,000 acre-feet. Nevada would make up the rest of the reductions. California's argument that its farmers, as some of the river's senior-most users, have a priority claim to the water is just one of the many interests that complicate the state's ability to come to an agreement. The bitter negotiations between California and the other basin states threaten to send matters to court for litigation, scenario water managers hope to avoid. So that's it. Please like, share, and comment your thoughts below if you liked this video. Remember to subscribe to see our next video. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.